Dreadnought here, and today I'd like to suggest you read Dungeon Odyssey. It's a manhwa about a man named Kim Jinwoo who was known in this world as a dungeon baby, which are individuals who were born in a labyrinth of monsters during a decades-long war between humanity and the masters of the labyrinth, which ended with humanity's victory. And with this victory, prisoners of war were released. Amongst those prisoners were the dungeon babies, where it is said their mothers died in the dungeon, leaving the babies on their own, but to humanity's surprise, the monsters raised them with monsters' milk. And I wonder how that tastes. The monsters used them for forced labor, but the result from the combination of milk and physical strain led to them possessing otherworldly power, leading to their classification as a dungeon baby, separate from regular humans. So, let's get to it. The Dungeon Odyssey original novel, known as Record of Dungeon Travel, was created by the author Glumf, where it can be found on Wuxia World, consisting of 320 chapters, translated by Kona. Its adaptation into a manhwa was done by Song Minwoo, consisting of 120 chapters, as of February 5th, 2025. The web novel has mixed reviews on whether it's good or bad, but the manhwa is viewed as one of the top stories. This difference in rating may be due to the differences in the story direction, as the manhwa explores more of the dungeon management and changes, and the novel is more focused on action. You can give them both a try, but I've been spending my time reading manhwa these days, so that's the version I read. The manhwa is an action fantasy with a slightly darker tone when it comes to the labyrinths, due to the fact that if you go unprepared, death is guaranteed. So if you do explore, a guide, preferably a powerful dungeon baby, is recommended. The different labyrinths shape how the world develops in this story, as well as Kim Jinwoo's own progression after he comes into the possession of his own. The art has a distinct style and is similar to the manhwa Level Up Alone, which is another decent read if you're interested. This story is good for those that like a strong main character who recruits and has allies who grow stronger alongside them, and the management of an area with the assistance of a system with upgrades over time. So, let's dive into it a bit. Our main character is Kim Jinwoo, someone born in a dungeon on the 12th floor of the labyrinth underworld, who upon the completion of the war for the surface was left to survive and escape on his own alongside the other prisoners, which, from the 12th floor, was an extremely daunting task. Kim Jinwoo was able to escape in the end and was adopted by a family through a dungeon baby program made by the government to adjust to the increasing population. Kim Jinwoo was put into a family who had slight financial struggles and decided to use his power to help the people who gave him grace, and went back into the labyrinth as a guide for explorers. But an issue arose. Due to them not following his instructions, it led to mass casualties and almost killed them. But something unexpected happened. He was pulled into an unclaimed dungeon known as the Naga Labyrinth, making him into a dungeon master. Now, Kim Jinwoo is calculative, calm, and ruthless when it is required, which leads to his assimilation into the role without too much struggle, but he has much to learn now being involved as part of the labyrinth and not a prisoner of war. For the side characters, we have Dominique, the hero class aide and first ally of Kim Jinwoo, who assists in the management of the dungeon. Dominique assists Kim with any suggestions, developments, and even gives him information on the dungeon he inhabits. Now, there are a few other characters, such as the Demon Merchant Group, Mercenaries, Dungeon Minions, and other Dungeon Masters, but they don't really come in until much later. So for the most part, from the start, you have Kim Jinwoo and Dominique doing what they can to develop the dungeon, alongside the little minions. The main villain of this story are the monsters of the labyrinth and the masters of each floor of the underworld, who each have their own goals. But the biggest threat is the fact that a dungeon can be improved by taking the core fragment of another master's dungeon. Then there are the territorial disputes on every floor and the looming threat of another war with the surface. Kim has to ensure that he can increase his power and avoid established dungeon masters who could wipe his dungeon away or take advantage of him. This story develops through the eyes of Kim Jinwoo as he explores the different floors of the labyrinth underworld, now being a resident and not a prisoner. He takes the mantle that was forced onto him and takes responsibility for the current and new residents. And with this, he ensures he builds a network with masters who can potentially benefit him and avoids or confronts those that pose a threat. But the masters of the floors have been there much longer than he has, so he has to be smart about his tactics and decisions. The story also revolves around his dungeon and how he develops the infrastructure, the level of residents, the ecosystem, the network, and the connections made by himself or his capable allies. The world itself develops through the development and conflicts of the labyrinth underworld and the many unique masters of each floor, as well as the advancement of technology for human societies around the world due to the materials and resources obtained by explorers of the dungeon. The story of Dungeon Odyssey works really well for me because of the action with the fights, especially when Kim Jinwoo goes against another dungeon master, and due to my preference for stories that involve the development of a kingdom or city. This fits my criteria with the focus on how the dungeon increases in power and how the soldiers and residents are capable of evolution through battle or the dungeon master's improvements. Anything, game, book, or movie that involves some form of advancement grabs my attention, and if the characters are great, that's a cherry on top that keeps me reading. This story fits the bill, and honestly, I think you'd enjoy reading it, and you should definitely give it a try. I also enjoy the art style because it works well for the visuals and action sequences, and it represents the emotions of some characters very well, especially the main character, Kim. It also matches my style when I myself make art, which gives me a little bit of bias. It is worth the read if you enjoy world building and a strong main character who isn't OP from the start, but doesn't have a weak mentality. So, give it a try. I want to thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoy reading this one as much as I have. If you have any suggestions yourself, please put them in the comments, and I'll give them a read if I haven't already. Thank you once again, and safe travels.